A grounded conversation about returning to podcasting after life disruptions and why structure, not motivation, is what helps creators regain momentum faster. This is Getting Your Footing Back, Why Systems Matter in Podcasting. But first, if you don't know, I am Danny Marie, your podcast bestie, your podcast mentor, podcast strategist, and coach. I have the podcast Plan to Podcast, no pun intended. No, all the pun intended. And I host a group, a thriving community of podcasters on Facebook with the same title, Plan to Podcast. And I show people how to turn their podcast, I'll say turn or speak directly to podcast beginners or podcast newbies and teach them how to monetize their platforms. All of that said, we have a lot to catch up on. But first, you guys, who has been feeling the sickness? It started with my kids. First, like a month or two ago, it was the bubble guts. Everybody in my house had the bubble guts, and everybody was out of commission. Thank God that bypassed me. But it started with my oldest son, who had it really bad, and it was coming out on both sides. And then my mother, and then my baby, who had it very mildly. And then by the time it was for me to get it, I'm just like Teflon the Don. And so I wasn't really sick or did not catch the bubble gut phase. Then fast forward to 3 weeks ago now, everybody in my house has been sick, including myself. So I was the last person to kind of be sick. And sick for me just means I lost my voice for a couple of days and just did not have the energy that I would normally have. So I have not been doing any live streaming for a week. So here we are, we're back in full effect, but hydrate, take your vitamins, put on your mask. It's back outside. Whatever it is, it's out there. Be careful. So with all of that brought up the conversation that we're having today, getting your footing back and why systems matter in podcasting. Because, hello to everybody in the, why getting your footing back is much easier when you have systems in place. So I've been sick, I've been out of commission, and I've given myself permission to, at first it was more or less, I'm not sick, I just want time to unplug from meeting everybody else's needs. So I just gave myself permission to lean into rest. So I was resting. Little did I know, about a week later, I would be sick and I would need the rest. So this is why systems in podcasting is so important, because you're able to regain your footing again. And then it's a pause instead of a hard stop. So a lot of times life happens. I told you guys, do not. Out. I told you out. And a lot of times life happens, whether a death in the family, whether kids, whether sickness, whether work, because some of us who are podcasters are doing this as a part-time thing. But I will say, when you have systems that are in place, it's easier to get back on your feet. It's easier to regain your momentum if you have a strong system that's already set up. Mom first, above all else. But in this live, the topic, getting your footing back, why systems matter, we're also talking about some housekeeping, welcoming some new members in our community, giving them some shout outs. We have a community MVP, most valuable podcaster, that we're going to also give a shout out to. We're going to do podcast tips, specifically talk about some of the major podcasting milestones, and a little bit of pod news sprinkled in there. So that's basically what's on today's outline. So if you don't know, again, I am the host of Plan to Podcast. You can find us on the major streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Plan to podcast. We pretty much help with, I would say a lot of it this season has been mindset, mental preparedness for podcasters and getting in the right frame of mind and challenging your own beliefs and your philosophy. And a lot of this stuff can be applied to everyday life. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're a podcaster. Even though I speak directly to podcasters, I think a lot of the stuff can also be applied to any type of creator, any entrepreneur, any person who's working on their business. Like mental preparedness, what does that look like? Imposter syndrome, giving yourself positive affirmations, mothering yourself, nurturing yourself, forgiving yourself. What does all of that look like? And we cannot operate to the fullest potential until we work on self. At least that's my personal belief. When you work on that personal development, everything in your personal life, hopefully, is just magnified because of the person that you are and how you carry yourself and how you face adversity. So if you're equipped in your personal life, meaning that you obviously are a person of faith, as am I, or you do something that's helping you and feeding your spirit, you're taking classes, you're doing your meditation, you're praying every day. When your personal life is healthy, that is a manifestation in every other facet of your life. It's in my belief, in my opinion. So I strongly believe that, and that's why we're focused a lot on mindset this season, because what I've learned about working with podcasters is all of the technical stuff seems pretty easy. Like you can look it up on Google, on YouTube, you can even chat GPT it today. But what tends to happen is that mental fortitude that requires you to build a sustainable platform is where people hit a lot of hurdles, is where they get a lot of resistance. It's where they experience a lot of the pushback within themselves. Nobody's judging you. It's not anybody who's not listening or who hasn't discovered you, because there's things that you can actually do to make sure that that all happens. But it's the mental capacity, the mental fortitude, the mental preparedness, the mental, can I say mental hygiene? Is that a thing? But the mental wellness. I try to make up a word, but mental wellness that it requires, so that when people aren't listening, when people don't care, when you've hit a plateau on your podcast journey, you still feel good at the end of the day to push forward. You still are a complete whole person, and you're not letting simple things deter you from what you said to yourself was supposed to be your calling, your journey, your path forward. So that's why this season we're talking a lot about mental health and mental preparedness, specifically as relates to podcasters, even though a lot of this can be applied to whatever industry or whatever it is that you do. All right, let's do some community shout outs. I saw today, because every Monday, if you request to join our group, every Monday, we automatically shout out all of our newest members. And I saw today that it was quite a hefty list. So I am pulling that up right now, because Plan to Podcast at the end of the day is community centric. So we're speaking to our Facebook group members, and you guys just happen to be involved in the conversation. So let's shout them out. Welcome to Plan to Podcast. We're so excited that you're here. We have some moderators that I want to introduce you all to. But before we get into it, Brittany Cleveland, Moleda Daly, Chris Foster, Follow the Money with Stephanie B, Darsha Clark, Aaron Clark, Sarah Hessen, Chatter, Carrie, Minna, Rick, Bilal, Tommy, Charlie, Jenny, Lamont, Ashley, Brittany, Joe, Monica, Camille, Simone, Marty, Christopher, Beverly, Amy, Perkin. I'm Danielle Perkins, so shout out to Amy Perkin. Jordan, Hawkins, BK, Dom. This is not my strong suit, y'all, these names. Jove, Hannah, Ernest, Paul, Lauren, Christian, Gloria, Monica, Nicole, Janita, Robert, Jim, Brandy, Crystal, Lori, Camille, Connie, Steph, Scott, Sarah, Shamba, Marcia, Antonio, Preem. You know, that's a long list. Has to be like, I'm going to say 45, 50 names. That's a long list. Maybe that wasn't that many. Maybe 30. Maybe I just over-exaggerated. But shout out to all of you guys. Welcome to Plants to Podcast. We're so happy that you've joined us in community in our Facebook group. Now, it doesn't have to start here and in here. It can start here, but we hope that you do more business with us, more collaborative projects with us. We have Mike Masters. We're opening up PodFit. We're doing brand ambassadors with our Podcasters Near Me website. So many things coming down the pipeline. I hope you all stay tuned. I look forward to this journey together in helping you with whatever you need help with, wherever you are on your journey, whether it is launching, growing, scaling, or monetizing your podcast. I believe in the 5 Ps to build a sustainable podcast. This is my framework. You won't find it anywhere else. You'll get nuggets, but it's not this. You need a plan. You need great production. And great just means something that's good for you. And good meaning I went from great to good to. So you basically need a good production with whatever it is you are trying to achieve with your platform. So maybe you have a podcast that's going to be out in the street style content. So you need a good setup for that. So that's what I mean by good and great production. So a plan, production, you need a platform, you need to check your performance, and you need to be great at promoting yourself. And then if I was going to add 2 other P's, which I tend to do, you also need to learn how to pivot, which we talk a lot about on this platform. Planning to podcast includes pivoting as needed. And then you also need, once you do all of those 6 things effectively, you need to have a great profit strategy, a way that you're going to monetize your platform. So you'll hear a lot of that in everything that I do, my framework, the 5 Ps of podcasting. I also believe the 3 Cs, that you need great content, a strong community, and you need a coach. Shameless plug. Hit me up. As a matter of fact, it is DannyMarie.com. If you're needing any podcasting related services, it is DannyMarie.com. Let me drop it over here on Substack. What's up, Substack? I hope you guys are all well. I'm also talking to Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and I just made it so where I can be on LinkedIn, but I guess LinkedIn didn't get the memo. I just got a notification that I got another connection. So I guess LinkedIn didn't get the memo. So it might take a minute for them to actually approve me to be live on that platform too. But the moment I'm approved, I will be on LinkedIn as well. So on LinkedIn, a little bit of that sickness just came up. Excuse me. Ooh. On LinkedIn, though I speak directly to, on other platforms, I speak directly to podcasters. On LinkedIn, I'm looking for people who want to be a guest or people who need to place ads on any of my 3,000 members plus platforms in my community on Facebook. So that's why I'm on LinkedIn. So just a small tidbit, even though we're going to get into other podcasting tips, you have to know your audience and you have to know the platforms. LinkedIn, obviously, a bunch of professionals, expert coaches thought leaders, a lot of people who work in corporate spaces. So I wouldn't necessarily try to teach them how to podcast per se. However, I would suggest to them that if you have a product, brand, or service that you need to market, then you should be advertising on some of my podcasters' platforms. So that's the pitch for LinkedIn. Community MVP. You guys, the community MVP, most valuable podcasters, are people who are extremely helpful in the group, who are frequently commenting, who are active, and all of the things, but also, I'm debating if I'm going to say this or not, but also they paid for this service, okay? They paid to also be featured as well. So we have a website, we have blogs, we have the podcast, we have a membership of 3,000 plus members in this Facebook group. So this is helping them to be pushed and amplified on this platform. And so we have to give a community MVP shout out to Tasha and her crew. And what I love about them is they're already doing something that I aspire to do. I said if I ever was to have children, I would world school my children. I would take them on the road. They would not be in any public education, even though they are now. It took a lot of tug and pull and a lot of pushing and a lot of people convincing me. And then it took me not working and then finally needing to go back to work for me to put my kids in public education. But I've always said if I was to become a parent, I would world school my children, completely unschool them, unplug them, and travel the world. And anything we want to learn, we're going to go into that facility and we're going to go learn it. If that's a museum, a monument, or whatever, we would have the book work and then we would go venture off and have the adventure and experience the thing. So these people, Tasha and the two Jennifers, are traveling by RV and they're documenting it and they've created a podcast around it. And I just adore them because, like I said, this is something I've wanted to do for a while. Even before children, I just knew this would be my life. So Tasha Martin has the Learn to RV, the podcast. The podcast features candid conversations about family, travel, remote work, community resources, and heart-centered guidance for every age and stage of nomadic life. The show emphasizes building sustainable lifestyles, not just travel experiences, and why this podcast matters. This podcast is a demonstration of how being consistent, having consistent content, and all of those things can how consistent content can function as infrastructure, supporting lifestyle design, flexibility, and long-term life alignment. Okay. We got to, of course, show you guys a video. Shout out to Tasha. And you're going to also hear from the other ladies. So after this video, we'll get into some of the content.
Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast, where we support, inspire, and empower you 1 mile at a time.
I'm Tasha.
I'm Jennifer.
My name's Jennifer.
Real life stories from real people living this gloriously messy lifestyle.
Real unfiltered moments of the RV life.
The realities of getting and staying on the road.
It's all going to be right here.
Hey there.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast,
where every mile is a lesson and every stop is an adventure. You're listening to the Learn to RV podcast, the podcast that keeps you rolling and inspired.
Shout out to Tasha and the two Jennifers. I just think that is so adorable. So it looks like they all live in other parts of the world and they're all doing their RV adventure with their families, but they come together remotely to do the podcast. So that's the remote work that they probably do, amongst other things. The cool thing about being a podcaster is you can do that. Or a coach. You can be anywhere in the world as long as you have good Wi-Fi, hopefully, and still be able to meet with your clients, still show up to do the podcast recording. And I just love podcasting for that reason, amongst other things, but one of the reasons. So shout out to them. We're going to play that video one more time.
Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast, where we support, inspire, and empower you 1 mile at a time.
I'm Tasha.
I'm Jennifer.
My name's Jennifer.
Real life stories from real people living this gloriously messy lifestyle.
Real unfiltered moments of the RV life.
The realities of getting and staying on the road.
It's all going to be right here.
Hey there.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast.
Where every mile is a lesson and every stop is an adventure. You're listening to the Learn to RV podcast, the podcast that keeps you rolling and inspired.
All right. The link should be available wherever you are watching this. It's in the description of this episode. The link for Learn to RV, the podcast. You guys, let's get into some more topics. So I told you, or maybe I didn't, but we're doing things a little differently in our group. And that means I'm going to pull back as the admin. I'm still the admin, but I was like trying to do stuff every day of the week, going live every day of the week. I was doing podcast power hour every Thursday, and I was doing all of the things. And I don't mind doing those things, but I'm going to be doing those things a bit differently and then with more intention. So Monday is my new day of the week where I'm going to be all in, plugged into the group. And then every other day of the week, we're going to be doing other stuff, like with Mike Masters, my paid community, who actually needs me to show up and do personal Q&A and help them with their podcast. And then we have the Pod Fit community. And this is like, you're going to get everything behind the scenes. When I'm setting up to do a podcast episode, when I am cleaning up the house, thinking about things I need to do for the podcast, when I'm setting up to do desk yoga, you guys are going to get all of that. And so for Pod Fit, we'll most of the time be in like small community with each other, probably in social audio, where we can be all doing our thing at the house, basically talking on the phone with your girlfriend, but we're all just plugged in with each other. We're synchronizing our schedules and our calendars, and we're linking up virtually all of the time to have some accountability partners, to like check in with each other, have better control over our day and our time. So that's Pod Fit. Like, it's really a lifestyle together. And then we're still going to be doing podcast power hour, but of course that's not going to be front facing. That's behind the scenes as well. So a lot of the other stuff that I do will be still getting done, but it's just going to be behind the scenes and it's not going to be so public facing. So if you really cared about me, you'll join me and be where I'm at, because that's where the party is. That's where the party resides. That's where the real stuff is happening. So you can reach out to me again. It is Danny Marie. I left a link in Substack. And then, of course, it is Danny Marie, the banner here on all of the other platforms. You can reach out there, or you can also reach out to me directly with a DM to ask about any one of the things I mentioned. And what else? We need one more moderator. So every day of the week, somebody else from our moderator list will be in the group, and they give the right to share whatever they want you to learn for that day. So whatever they do, we're all experts in podcasting. We all have pretty big platforms. We're all doing our thing, and we all have something to offer this community. So every day of the week, you're going to hear from one of us. We have DC, we have Jonathan, we have Marquise, we have Monique, and forgive me because Monique just told me about her husband who wants to also be a moderator, and I'm already slipping on his name. Charge it to my head and not my heart. So Darius, Marquise, Jonathan, Micah, and what did I say? Monique, y'all. Mahogany. I'm just lying. I'm just giving y'all the wrong names of the moderators. Mahogany, forgive me. So Mahogany and Micah, I have not had a chance to work with very much, but they are good people, and I've vetted them, even though I did not give them the right name. I apologize. Darius, Marquise, Jonathan, Micah, and Mahogany. Soon on our website, plantopodcast.com, we're going to be featuring them. And so you'll get a chance to see their bio and what day of the week that they are podcasting, or what day of the week they have within our group. And then, you might decide that I'm not the best fit for you. So you might want to go to Jonathan, or Jonathan's not the best fit for you. So you might want to go to DC. DC has a lot of experience traveling and attending podcasting conferences, as does Marquise. I think Marquise, he does what he does really well. He has experience with awards, and what he does really well is he makes comedic related content to promote his podcast. So you might need somebody that's an expert in that. Jonathan, what Jonathan does really well, Jonathan, to me, wears his heart on his sleeve. So he's very much relationship based, and that's how he builds his community. And his thing has been anthologies. So he builds anthologies and podcast series around a cohort. So he'll have, like, I don't know the number, but I'm putting this number out there, 10 people a part of this book series, anthology book number 1. They'll all be guests on the podcast, and I think he takes their excerpt from the podcast, turns it into a chapter in the book. And so now they have these assets together that they can also monetize from. So if you want to do an anthology, you might talk to Jonathan. What I think I do well is offer you the systems, everything with building your system. I do a lot of challenges and campaigns, and I try to come up with the events that make podcasting interesting. What Mahogany and I just forgot again. Micah do well. They're a couple, right? So I think they can probably offer you a lot of insight with balancing. They do individual podcasts outside of each other, and then they have a podcast together, and then they're married and they have children, I believe. And so what I think that you can learn from them is how to balance it all, how to still show up, perform at your best self, have multiple different platforms. And I think their podcast together, Marriagepreneur or Marriage, something like that, Marriagepreneur. So like I said, I've been out of sorts for the past week or two. So even I am kind of like a little out of whack, but I'll get it right next time. Again, charge it to my head and not my heart. But I think what they can offer to you is just like balancing personal and professional life as a married couple. And then how do you communicate with your partner when you both have stuff you guys have to do? I'm sure they work. And then they have the podcast, and then they're building a business, and then they're parents. How do you balance and compartmentalize everything? So we all offer something different. And then we have 2 honorary moderators, though they haven't been given the official title or privileges yet. We have 2 editors in our group. So anytime you say I need help with editing, we would refer you to the 2 moderators of the 2 editors of our group who can help you with that. And actually one of them, DJ and I, we are doing a launch your podcast. It's not even a challenge. Like challenge is like typically we tell you to do something and you do it. We give you homework. But with this particular mini challenge, we're actually doing it all together. So we're launching your podcast in 5 days, and that is possible. We're going to record some content that you can batch record in 2 hours and have your podcast ready. And then DJ is going to be editing. So that does come with a price with that launch your podcast. But it's so you can stop second guessing yourself. You can do it in a cohort, work with some people, get your podcast up and running in 5 to 7 days. I added the extra 2 days because certain platforms take a little bit more time to get approved for your podcast to be approved. Apple in particular. So we just add the buffer in there. But yeah, some of you guys are struggling. Some of you guys are doing a lot of research before you feel adequately prepared. So you don't have to second guess. You can come take this course with us. It's a 5-day challenge, not a course. And get your podcast up and running and edited. And that's key. And then if you want ongoing support, obviously I can help you with that too when it comes to building the systems, having things on automation, finding the right platforms that make the most sense for your podcast. And by the way, if you have still yet to get started and you want to start your podcast because you have a product, brand, or service that you need to market, or because you see that people are starting podcasts and they're building these big platforms and you want to be a part of the build, comment the word plan to podcast and I will send you a planner to help you get started. You can also call 253-349-2134. Call right now. As a matter of fact, 253, let me drop it over here on Substack. 314. And we're going to call her right now on live. We're going to call her on live. 349. I don't know what I said. 2134. Call this number. And she's going to make sure that you and I are a good fit. So let's call right now before you even get to me. And this is a little something for the coaches out there. Don't you get tired of doing these free consultations only to find that people are not compatible or meant for you? So therefore, you can hire a virtual assistant to do your intake for you and ask all of the right questions before you even sit down with whomever. So that's what we're doing right now. I'm going to show you how it's done. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
Hi, this is Rachel from Plan to Podcast. We help podcasters turn a podcast hobby into a platform and a platform into a business by creating clear podcast plans that reduce overwhelm and burnout. I'd love to learn a little more about where you're at so I can point you in the right direction. Mind if I ask you a few quick questions?
Sure.
Awesome, thanks. Here we go. 1, where are you with your podcast right now? Haven't started but stopped, inconsistent publishing but not growing but not monetizing, overwhelmed or burnt out. Which one fits you best?
I started, but I'm not consistent.
Thanks for sharing. 2, what feels hardest mentally about podcasting right now? You can pick up to 2. Deciding what to talk about. Staying consistent, feeling behind or discouraged. Tech or editing stress. Not seeing results.
Staying consistent.
Not knowing what to do next.
Staying consistent in tech and
Got it.
editing stress, for sure.
Thanks, that's super helpful. 3, which part do you feel least clear about? Planning production, platform performance, promotion. Which one stands out for you?
Maybe the promotion. I could do better about promoting it. Maybe that's something holding me back too.
Thanks for being honest. That makes a lot of sense. 4, how are you currently treating your podcast? Creative outlet side project, serious platform business, or future business?
It's more like
most true for you.
More like a creative project, even though I want to make it a business.
Got it. So it's a creative project right now, but you'd love to turn it into a business down the line. 5, How much time can you realistically give your podcast each week? Under 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours, 3 to 5 hours, more than 5 hours? What feels doable for you?
Honestly, probably 3 to 5. Yeah, I think I could find that amount of time in my schedule every week. Yeah.
Perfect. That's a solid window to work with. 6. What would success look like for you in the next 90 days? Just share what comes to mind. There's no wrong answer.
I want to have like 500 more downloads.
Love that. Clear and simple. 5 more downloads in the next 90 days.
500, not 5.
Would you-
500.
Got it. Thanks for clarifying. Aiming for 500 more downloads in the next 90 days. That's a great goal. Last question. Would you like the option to receive a recording of your planning session and follow-up materials? Yes, maybe not right now.
I think maybe.
Thanks for letting me know. Here's a quick summary. Based on what you shared, your biggest bottleneck is promotion, getting your podcast out there and growing your audience. The next step is a free 30-minute podcast planning consultation with Danny. After your session, you'll have the option to receive a recording of the session, a written podcast plan, or a full planning packet with workflow and check-in support. I'll go ahead and schedule your free 30-minute podcast planning consultation. Let me check Danny's calendar for the best times. 1 sec. Danny has some open slots in the next couple of weeks. Is there a day or time that usually works best for you, or do you want the soonest available? The session is 30 minutes and can be scheduled at your convenience.
Yeah, I think this Friday, if that's an option.
I'll book you for this Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. You'll get a confirmation and all the details soon. You're all set for this Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific with Danny. You'll get a confirmation soon. Thanks for sharing.
You didn't ask me for my email address.
You're totally right. Thanks for catching that. Could you share the best email address for your confirmation and session details?
hello@itisidanymarie.com.
Perfect. Thank you. I've got your email as @itisidanymarie.com. You'll get your confirmation and all the session info there. If you need anything else before Friday, just let us know. Otherwise, you're all set. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Rachel. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Talk soon. Bye.
So then I get a playback of everything, and then that's added to my calendar. And then she said itisidanymarie.com instead of hello@itisidanymarie.com because I've been doing test calls. And so she just used and referenced the email that I would normally say to use. But it does work, and you will get an email confirmation as well. So that is a virtual assistant. And instead of speaking to me right away, maybe you want to speak to the virtual assistant and, answer some of those key questions. And then we know exactly what your biggest bottleneck is based on the questions that you answered. So as a matter of fact, let me go look to see what Marbleism just created. I'm not going to share my screen because that's my business, but I will share with you exactly what she just told me from the conversation. And then we're going to get into the main topic of the hour. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Let me know if you guys already have a podcast. Drop the link to your podcast in the comment section because I would love to listen. If you're looking for collaboration opportunities, let me know. Maybe I'm not the best fit for your platform, but I know a ton of people who could be better fits than myself. And as I stated before, we have so many things in the works that I'm sure we can find ways to plug you in, or vice versa. So hi, Danny. Just wanted to let you know I wrapped up a positive inbound call from the testing number, so this won't count towards your limit. The quick summary: caller is at the started but not consistent stage with podcast. Main challenge: staying consistent and tech editing stress. Biggest bottleneck is promotion. They currently treat the podcast as a creative project, but want to turn it into a business. Their realistic commitment is 3 to 5 hours per week. They have a 90-day goal of getting 500 downloads. And I scheduled a free 30-minute podcast planning consultation for them this Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sent confirmation to my email address. All right. And so I would get that on my calendar. And if I wanted to, I can plan ahead using this quick summary, which I would do. So let me know on Substack, Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube if you want my link to my virtual assistant connect, and I will hook you up. It's only, I think, $45 a month, and I get 5 different assistants, and they're all thorough. I get an executive assistant, a social media manager, a blog writer, a sales associate. So my sales associate helps me get leads on LinkedIn when I'm still in bed. And this is what I mean by systems. This is why we're talking about why systems matter in podcasting today. Because while I'm sick in my bed, chilling with my kids like this, I'm still able to be reaching out and getting prospects for other things, other obligations. So not only do I have Plan to Podcast, I have Host City Hustle, and we're looking for experts, coaches, and consultants. And so I have my sales associate go find those people and book on my calendar. Or in this case, for Plan to Podcast, like I said, on LinkedIn, I'm looking for people who want to place like an ad on your podcast, yours, you over there. This is why you need to be on my email list so I can plug you guys in. Like, hey, I got this person who needs to place an ad on a podcast about relationship and marriage. Who in my network would be the best fit? That's why you guys need to be on my email list. Or, hey, we're popping up in Los Angeles. Who's out there? Who's in LA? We're popping up. We're doing a podcast meetup, bringing all the food. Who wants to turn up? So that's why you guys should be on the email list. And again, go to plantopodcast.com for more information. So yeah, that was my virtual assistant that we just went through that demonstration. Like I said, did I finish? Sales associate, legal associate, and a receptionist. 6 VAs with the help of AI, all thorough, all efficient for $45. I think I did an episode already about the top 10 tools in my podcasting toolkit, and I believe that is on plantopodcast.com, as well as it is idanielmarie.com, as well as my Substack. But I think I mentioned the virtual assistants that I use. So go back and find it or reach out to me and I'll send it to you. All right. I'm just chewing this gum. I do not recommend. Y'all not supposed to be chewing gum. Not when you're doing the podcast. I'm just chewing. Okay. Podcast tip of the hour, mastering the mic. How do you master the mic? What does that mean? Because, we have mic masters as well. Like I said, we got the mic masters. We got the podcast PodFit group. Mastering the mic, though, how do you get better about your craft as a podcaster? Okay, you've been podcasting for 5 years, but are you the best at it? Or is there something that you can do to improve? Like chewing your gum all up in people's ears. That's a no-no. But if you were a true mic master, you would know better. But mastering the mic, Master mic distance over expensive gear. Meaning, like, what? Huh? Meaning, you should know where your mic should be positioned to get the best sound quality. It's not so much buying a $300 or $400 microphone, even though, yes, it makes a crispier sound. But really, you buy them one, you kind of buy them all. I mean, there is a stark difference from like a $30 mic to a $300 or $400 mic. There is a big difference. However, it's probably subtle to the listener's ear. So at least if you cannot afford expensive equipment, you know where to position your microphone so it's not picking up on all of those P's and B's and T's, and it's just giving the poor audio experience for your listener. But if you kind of have it a little further away, it's not as prominent or pronounced. 4 to 6 inches from the mic. So your mouth should be, pause, 4 to 6 inches from the mic. Speak past the mic, not directly into it. So you should not just be, oh my gosh, can you imagine? But you should be projecting, and it should be 4 to 6 inches from your mouth. Again, so you're not getting, the person listening is not getting a ton of reverb, and it's not ricocheting off the graph, but it's a nice, make sure you can adjust the audio quality, the sound, the volume, and all of those things. Maybe you don't have a soundboard or a switchboard, but at least you can do small little subtle tweaks so it's not giving a bunch of reverb and making the experience horrible for the people who are listening to you. Speaking past the mic. So projecting your voice, even though the microphone is 4 to 6 inches away from your mouth, you're speaking to an audience full of people. It's picking up the quality of your voice. Okay. And then but clarity builds confidence, and confidence keeps you consistent. When you show up confidently, it's easier to show up consistently. I got this in the bag. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a minute. Boom, bop, bing. Whereas I'm showing up, I'm not consistent. I'm not getting past the learning curves, the tech issues. So my confidence is lacking, and that shows up and manifests in different ways when I'm doing my content. So speak past the mic, not directly into it. You need to be 4 to 6 inches away from the mic, and there should be a mindset that you keep mic distance over expensive gear. Yeah, man, I wish I could afford a $1,000 podcast studio, but I can't right now. But the best thing that I can do is take this mastering the mic tip and make sure I'm speaking 4 to 6 inches away from the mic. I'm projecting my voice. I'm speaking to the room, not the mic. And I'm building my confidence over time. That is my win. That's the play. That's the gag. Lastly, as we wrap up these last 11 minutes, you guys, let's talk about podcast milestones. What was I doing yesterday? I was at work. Mind you, I've also been working. It's basically a double, but it's not a double because it's such a short shift. But I'll work 4.5 hours. It's a little longer than that, but 4.5 hours. Clock out for 2 or 3 hours and then clock back in. So like a split shift. And that's kind of been kicking my boots high. But when I'm at work, I'm at a stand-up desk all day, folding clothes basically. So I process returns for Amazon. So I'm processing returns and there's nothing else to think about. So this is my time to think the most because it's quiet. Everybody's at their station. We can't be talking. We can't listen to no music. So I have nothing but time to think. That's when my best ideas come forth. But I was thinking about podcast milestones. And sure, we're all going to experience podcasting differently and have our different milestones. Some people have gotten much further than I have, and I've been doing this much longer. But because you have the notoriety and the success that you have, maybe you get past a certain milestone quicker than I will. But generally speaking, everybody probably has hit these particular milestones somewhere on their journey. So let's just talk about this very quickly before we wrap. And then I want to leave off with, let's jump to this real quick. Podcast news. You guys, today I was watching Netflix and actually I have drum roll sound effects. Let's see if we can get to them. The Breakfast Club was on Netflix. Officially today, The Breakfast Club, Joe and Jada podcast, and many others are now on Netflix. So you guys let me know if you've already witnessed or bear witness to this, if you've already watched or listened. Even if you don't listen to these podcasts, like you wouldn't go watch them or listen to them on your own downtime. But if they came across your feed, if you were on Netflix, maybe you clicked because you just wanted to see and experience the podcast and see what all the talk was about. So let me know if you guys already noticed the podcast feed coming through your Netflix. All right. So that was cool to see. So I know I was watching I think it's Late Night with LaRosa. But Lauren LaRosa's show, her podcast episode, and she was talking about The Breakfast Club will be officially on Netflix as of January 26th. And that was on Saturday. And then sure enough, I forgot that she had said it. And then I flipped on Netflix and saw that The Breakfast Club was up there. So that was dope. The latest with Lauren LaRosa, not Late Night, the latest news. So yeah, The Breakfast Club, I didn't see Joe and Jada. I will say it's just like exactly like their content on any other platform. It's just on Netflix. So there isn't like anything different or special. They just pull that content over to Netflix so people can watch it on Netflix too. At least in my observation. And I covered The Breakfast Club when I did a 30-day Black Podcasters email campaign. So for 30 days, I sent people on my email list information about different podcasters. So we can all know exactly what people are doing in the industry, and we can try to emulate that, or we can pull from what they're doing and try to find inspiration and, try to tweak it for our own platforms. But it's just important to be in the know. And so I highlighted The Breakfast Club. And I remember one of the things I talked about is that in their, I think, 2-hour-long segments, they're 2-hour-long episodes, they have everything chopped up in segments. So they have the latest with Lauren LaRosa. They have Jess with the Mess. They have Charlamagne the God with the Donkey of the Day. So if you were to split those things up, they could still be put on other platforms or turned into shorts, and they can be standalone. But it makes the process easier when you record that way in your format and your production. You have these things at the top of the hour or 30-minute blocks so that when it's cut up into shorter segments, these things can stand alone. But they also go well together as one cohesive project or one cohesive podcast episode. Hold on, y'all. So podcast milestones, and that wasn't the last news, y'all. My bad. I'm all over the place. Recent reporting from Pod News highlights growing concerns around pay-to-play podcast awards and services. And I told you guys earlier, one of our moderators, Marquise, his expertise is the awards shows and getting recognized as a podcaster on these awards platforms. And his observation was the same thing. A lot of these platforms are charging. I don't go after any type of awards. If I don't get it because you gave it to me, I'm not submitting myself to it, at least not at this juncture. I might, maybe somewhere my pride might go out of town for a week or two, and then I won't be so prideful and I might submit myself. But there's somewhere that I expect, there's a certain expectation I have for my platform. So I don't go out. To me, it's kind of funny. You submit to these platforms and then you're like, all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I'm so happy I'm picked. That's kind of funny to me. You knew you wanted to be picked. You knew you wanted to be a pick because you applied to be, featured, and you submitted the application and you paid the fees. And so personally, I have a lot of strong opinions, adverse opinions about the awards, and then submitting yourself, paying $400 and $500, like the Weeby Awards. There's an application of, I think, $400 or $500, depending on which category it is. And they do have a category for podcasters. So I just would not, but I understand why people do. The notoriety helps. So if you're going to do it, you need to definitely make sure that you properly vet these platforms, because not all of these platforms are credible. And when you're giving your money to something, hoping that you're going to be featured, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be awarded. It doesn't guarantee you'll be featured. And it doesn't guarantee that these platforms are real. That said, some newer awards programs charge for attendance, media packages, stage time, and interviews, blurring the lines between recognition and marketing. And what had happened was the International Podcast Awards, I believe is what it's called. Somebody dug into their background and found that they're not a legitimate platform. So Pod News has investigated the International Podcast Awards, a new award ceremony launched last year in Arizona, and discovered a website with misleading images, made up winners, and a unique business model. As they're reporting as of today, that was on the 22nd, the awards look great, but not everything is real. Coming directly from Pod News. So at this expo hall in Podfest this year was one of the booths named the International Podcast Awards. And it wasn't an award ceremony that this person had heard of. So by the third day, they went to the table to ask some direct questions. Who does the judging? Somebody said, my dad, which obviously would be a direct pause. So how did the awards work? There's $300 to the awards ceremony in Phoenix, where you get picked up, where you get to pick up the award and you get filmed doing an interview, the whole red carpet treatment. But there are other packages available. There are 2 events a year. The next one is April 2026 in Arizona. So personally, I don't have a problem with maybe the business model, the business operations. Like, you have to start somewhere. So, okay, the dad does the judging, even though I would probably find a panel of podcasters and invite them to be the guest judges. I don't have a problem with the model if it's a small platform. What I do have a problem with is if everything that they said that they would deliver on, they do not, in fact, deliver. And people are forking out this amount of money for it to kind of go down the drain. I work with a few people, and this is not exactly related, but even when it goes to podcasters who set up at a table or a conference or an event, they're going to table and they have to pay the fees for the tabling. A lot of people just pay the fees. They don't ask the follow-up questions. Can you give me a list of what the past 3 conferences, what the data has been the last 3 times you've hosted this event? What's the foot traffic? Even when it comes to your website, what's the foot traffic that's coming to your website? How many views? What's the engagement like? Those are the type of questions you should ask before paying $300. So this person had the right idea, the right frame of thought to do the research and ask the questions and go directly to the source and get the information from the source's mouth. Now, I wouldn't be prejudging them and writing a whole article about them because they're probably in their infancy stage and they're probably really a credible business that's building, and it just doesn't look like much of anything right now. But those things take a lot of time and it takes a process to build. So I'm not judging how they do business. I'm just judging. I'm not judging the business model, but I'm judging if they do shady business and they don't actually follow up on what they promise. But that is the International Podcasters Award based in Arizona, apparently. And this is coming from a credible source, podnews.net, for your information. So go check them out, podnews.net. They have news articles every day. You can even submit your events there if you're a podcaster, like your workshops, your webinars, and all of those cool things, and be on their email list. So last but not least, the main segment, the podcast milestones. I wanted to do my research and figure out what are some of the universal things that people can expect between year 1 and year 3. Because sometimes when you're just hitting the ground running and you're just going through the motions, you don't really look up to see, number 1, if you're gaining traction, number 2, how well you're getting traction, and number 3, what you did to get there. So they said in year 1, this is your consistency era. You're just trying to build up the stamina to do the thing. You're trying to establish trust with your listeners. You're trying to build that rapport. You're trying to retain those listeners, make sure that they come back. You're working on showing up consistently. You're working on the production. Consistency doesn't mean just the same date and time every week. Consistency also means the same caliber of production, the same level of production each time you show up. Is it the same? Can I expect that you will always be on video or always on audio, and you're always going to be talking about this thing, speaking directly to me as an audience member? That is consistency. For me, I haven't been consistent. I haven't been consistent in how I show up. I haven't been consistent in the time and days that I show up. So, I know my platform and what I'm building isn't necessarily for the podcast side of it, but it's for the community, and it's for the apps, and it's for the big production, the big platform down the line. So I oftentimes find myself working on everything for the long term, as opposed to working on the small everyday stuff like the podcast and showing up consistently. I mean, I balance it out well. A lot of people wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but I know within myself, I can show up better and more consistent in the level of production. And so that means for me, having a stable space in my home, I've invested so much in podcast equipment for it to get destroyed by my kids, but having my own space where they cannot touch my stuff and ruin my equipment. And I have my desk, and I have my cameras, and I have my lighting, and everything is set up. And I'm showing up online because sometimes it's online, sometimes it's just audio, so it's not consistent. So that is something for me that I'm working on. But again, I oftentimes get caught up in helping clients or working on the bigger picture stuff, and sometimes working on those small, smart goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, for the acronym of SMART. So that is me, and I'm very honest and real about where I stand. Some of you guys need to go through that same self-assessment. But in year one, every podcaster experiences the consistency era. Finding your voice, completing a season, and building listener trust. Year two is the clarity era. Clarity era. So I've been doing this for 5 years, 4 or 5 years. I'm just getting into my clarity era. And that's because I haven't consistently done one show for a long time either. I've done about 9 shows. So my clarity era is where I finally believe I know my niche. So I specialize in strategy, how to do the thing, how to build up the systems and build up your automations so your podcast can be running on autopilot, and how to monetize from your platform with the littlest or fewest ROI on your part. So how can I quickly set up and get a quick return on my investment? And I speak directly to indie podcasters, introverted podcasters, but basically I'm helping indie and introverted podcasters who are in the early stage of their podcast build a podcast to monetize from their podcast. And there's a fancier way of saying that, but that is what my niche is. You know, yours might be different, but you have to figure out what that is for you. I work with clients who are 60-year plus. So her platform is I speak directly to women in their 60s and up about, you know, the later part of their life and the fact that they're still building and life isn't over just because you've hit a certain milestone. So she speaks to them about things that women 60 and older deal with. You know, that goes in with mindset, emotional intelligence, spirituality, religion, health. So she speaks to her crowd about that. So you have to figure out what your niche is. Your niche can be based on geography, can be based on interest, hobby, demographic. We do have a few things to help you figure out what your niche is, but I say use the X, Y, Z formula. I do X by doing Y for Z, you know, or tweak it because you're a podcaster, so you'll plug it in. But it's the same formula that small businesses would teach anybody. It's the same formula for building a small business. I help X do Y by Z. Year two, the clarity era, is where you're working on tighter niches. You're doing faster production, so it's like second nature to you. And people are now starting to ask you for your help. So maybe you're a coach, maybe you're an expert. I teach podcasting. You might teach relationship. You might teach business and finance. So this is where you're working on fine-tuning all of those things. People are starting to ask you because they trust you. You've been consistent for the past year. Now they want to do business with you. So this is where the clarity kicks in. So now, after doing this for a while, I'm clear about what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. I'm not good at editing. So that's why I brought people onto my team who can do the editing for me. I'm good about strategy. Okay, how can we take your idea, which is small and minuscule and fragmented and doesn't seem big right now, but how can we take that and multiply it? What do we need to do to get from point A to point Z so we can start scaling your podcast? Year three, we're talking about podcast milestones. Ecosystem era. So now monetizing in multiple ways and having an ecosystem. And then, like I said, my frameworks: platform, production, plan, production, platform, performance, and promotion, and then if you were to add the other two, pivot and profit as well. So with my ecosystem, it's like teaching those things, having webinars, having challenges, having the podcast, having the social media, having the things on my customer relationship management tools so things are automated, having the virtual assistant. So the podcast supports the consulting, and it brings on more speaking opportunities and collaboration opportunities to work with other people. And then that's how you also build a monetization machine when you have a solid ecosystem, because now you can monetize from everything you create, your digital assets, your descriptions, your show notes, your playlists, your podcast playlists, your templates that you want to resell, your courses, or then you can go into colleges or corporate offices and do speaking gigs, or you can collaborate and host events in person and online. So then now everything is paying you. So there's a bucket, right, for everything that you do, and you are earning income from everything. So consulting, live shows, virtual events, collaboration, and those types of things. So in short, in closing, why systems matter. Life will always interrupt consistency. I know from firsthand. I tell it all of the time. From when I started podcasting, getting laid off from 2 jobs, my dad dying the day after my son's first birthday, losing everything, having to rebuild from scratch. And it's taken me the longest time to rebuild, coming from a person who has always been with a job, always had everything that I ever needed available to me, to then now it's very few far and in between. And I don't have much to show for anything these days, except for my right mind and my children. So I'm rebuilding. But in the rebuilding phase, I've gained so much. But in that, I have now a story. I've learned a lot of important steps. I can now duplicate and teach the things that I know. And that is what has afforded me an opportunity to monetize from my expertise, my knowledge. But with all of the personal hardship, miscarriages, death, house getting flooded, getting displaced from my home, losing my jobs, losing my storage, everything, I've still maintained my reputation as a podcaster. So some of us just hide behind the excuses. Okay, your auntie and third cousin passed away. Why does that mean you have to stop podcasting? You weren't even close to that third cousin. Quit playing. Just finding a reason and an excuse to stop. And then if anybody can relate, I can relate. I lost so many family members and friends in these past couple of years. It has hit me hard. That doesn't mean you stop doing what you're supposed to do. You go after it because you want your circumstances to be better. You don't want to be leaving your children in debt if something was to happen to you. If something was to happen to you, you want to be set up for success. So therefore, you need to rely on every bit of income in order for you to be set up properly, or to at least experience life greater, better, in a more jovial spirit, as opposed to being run down, rugged, and overwhelmed with everyday stuff, right? So therefore, it's that much more important that even if you experience a loss in your family, that you pick yourself back up, you get back on that horse, and you keep going. So do not give up on your dreams and the things that you know you're called to do just because you experience a little bit of setback. But I will say, having a strong system in place, it does make it easier to plug back in when you do have to take a step back for 2 or 3 weeks. And that's why systems matter. So systems for me, like I said, I use HoneyBook. Let me know if you guys need the HoneyBook link. I have more than one streaming platform. I have more than one hosting platform to host my podcast. It's not recommended for everybody, but it's a backup. Like from experience, I know I need to have a few things in place. And so I have a strong, solid system, and you kind of, you won't know until you kind of go through the things to know for yourself. Systems reduce friction during setbacks. I have been having problems with my laptop for whatever reason. Like for 2 weeks, I was experiencing some issues with my laptop. So anytime I would go live, it would say, we can't find your camera, even though the camera's right here in my face, embedded into the laptop. It would say, can't find your laptop. Well, instead of saying I'm not going to be live, I just plug up my phone. And so I'm using like StreamYard or Zoom. Like I said, I have multiple. You can even use Google Meet. I use all three depending on the time of the day. So I'll be on my Zoom with my laptop if I need to share, but then I'll be in the same room on my other device, and I'll have the camera on my phone. So the laptop won't have a camera, but it's used for sharing, whereas my phone will have the camera. It's used for the audible and the video. So that's just what I mean by backup. Or some of you guys won't have a guest for the week. And so instead of saying, we're just going to go forth, you're going to say, I'm not going to do my podcast episode because we didn't get a guest. You don't know how to speak for 30 minutes in front of your audience, so you can still show up consistently. So some of us have to work on pivoting. You don't rebuild, you resume. I have this bad habit. Again, I know myself better than anybody, and I don't have no problem. I'm a Taurus. I don't have no problem telling the truth about any of my business. Because what you gonna do? In the words of, what's her name? Sheree, fight me, boo. This is my business. You can't be more upset about my life than I am of myself. So I don't, Danielle or Daniel means God is my judge, and I live by that. And so I don't have no problem sharing the truth about myself. So I don't know why I said all that. Said it to say, you don't rebuild, you resume. Oh, I have a bad habit of when I don't like something, I just stop. No forewarning. I just stop. When I feel like something is not doing what it needs to do, I'm just going to pull back and pull away from it. Well, that's not the best thing to do. And so I've gotten better over time by practicing doing this consistently and showing up every week. But instead of starting another podcast, I've started using my own framework, and this is why I teach it to you guys. There is something within one of those 5 Ps that is creating a bottleneck for you. Maybe it's the promotion. I was talking to one of my friends. I call my clients, my friends, my mentors, all the same. They're all my friends. Talking to one of my friends, he was like, I got 1 download on my podcast this past week. I was like, okay, well, what did you do to promote it? One of my 5 Ps. I just shared the link the same day it went out. Well, first of all, we know that the algorithm's not showing all of our content to everybody on our friends list. That's number 1. 2, people have busy lives, even though they like to pretend like they're so busy. I know that they be on other social media platforms just scrolling, but that's a part of their busy lifestyle. Scrolling on TikTok. I don't know what you guys are going to do now because I heard TikTok is finally gone. That's another thing I've been telling you guys about. Come over to Fanbase, where you can monetize day 1 and start making money and bring your own community over, because there's no community on Fanbase. But you can bring your community, tell them you are going to host watch parties and do all the things and stuff on Fanbase. But you're in control over on Fanbase of your content, of your platform. So that's why I recommend it to you. But anyway, you have to do more than one thing to promote yourself. And it's not just sharing a link in a group. You need a lot of things to be working together in your favor at the same time. So your email list, going live the same day as your podcast episode, just to say, hey, how you guys doing? I had a wonderful weekend, a lovely day. I was thinking about this one topic, so I talked about it on my podcast. Go check out the podcast. It just aired. Email list, a blog, go live, share it, as a Facebook event and a Luma event. So do all of those things, not just the one thing, in order to promote your podcast. But again, knowing what your biggest bottleneck is what's going to be your saving grace. And so that's why I teach the 5-piece framework, because wherever you're stuck at, it will be revealed in one of those 5 P's. And then that's why I say you don't rebuild, you resume, because you just need to tweak a little something. Maybe it's in the production, maybe it's in the platform, but you don't have to start completely from scratch. You just need to figure out what your biggest bottleneck is and then start from there. And that's why, as I'm closing it, every podcaster needs a plan. Just like every business needs a business plan, you need a plan. And so a plan to help you in the moments that you hit a plateau and the moments that you need to pivot, you need some type of roadmap. So call my assistant. I gave y'all the number. I gave y'all the demonstration. I'll tell you the number again. 253-349-2134. You don't have to talk to me at first. Talk to my assistant if that makes you feel comfortable, because some of you guys are weird. And I know it takes one to know one. But I became weird and jaded because so many people out there in the world are weird. Podcasters don't like to speak. Go figure. So you don't even like to make connections and network with people, but you want people to listen to your podcast. That don't make no sense to me. But maybe you're so busy, or maybe you're so overwhelmed and you don't necessarily know if talking to me right away is the best move. So that's why I created the assistant for you. She'll ask you the questions and determine if we need to move forward. And so I did that demonstration early in the video. If you're just watching, go back and visit that part. It was probably midway through. We did a demonstration with Rachel, my virtual assistant. She asked me a series of questions, and then she scheduled the 30-minute consultation. Go through the same steps to get the same help. And let's get you on a podcast plan. Now, with my podcast plans, this is another one of the things that I do very, very well. Because I do like to be, there was a time where I was like, I don't want to be a coach, because a lot of you guys have a lot of stuff you need to work on. And I'm not here to help you with that. I've since grown, and I do actually enjoy working with people. And that's actually one of the strongest skill sets that I have. Like, I see you and I've been there. And so I'm going to try to take your hand and walk you through the process. Now, am I the best at it at all times? No. But that's because sometimes I let people override my system. And sometimes you have to be firm. This is the way we do things because this is what keeps me afloat. So sometimes I'm not firm, and sometimes I'm topsy-turvy with my own system, at least in recent weeks, because I'm managing a lot of projects for a lot of people. But I do like to be more intimate. I do like to take my time. I like to hold your hand. I like to walk you through the process. And I'm pretty good at it. Once I know, okay, this is what you're doing, then I'm going to help you. And no matter what, we're going to get to that bridge and cross it together. So all that said, yes, I will help you. I'm here for ongoing support. But podcast plans is where a lot of you guys need to start. And so something I've done really great at is creating podcast plans. A podcast plan is like your roadmap, like I said. So I've gotten it really down pat to ask all of the right questions, to extract as much information as I can. And then what we will do, there's 3 options. So we create the plan for you with our 30-minute consultation. That part is free. Now you can walk away with the recording, and that's a separate fee, $10 or $15. Or you can take it a step above that, and then you can walk away with the audio and a plan, something visual for you to look at, like a workflow, a mind map, a chart of how you're going to go from point A to point B to point C. That's the second option with the plans. Or the third option is the top of the top. You get the 30 minutes for free, but then you pay for the audio. You pay for the audio and the plan, and then you pay for the audio, the plan, and the reminders. So I'll set you up for like 4 emails where I'm checking in with you and making sure everything is still everything and that you're still good on your process of implementing everything in the plan. So you don't even got to work with me past that 30-minute consultation and those 4 emails that I send out. But then in the event that you do want to do continuing work together, continuing supportive services, I'm usually here to help you with implementing the systems, everything that goes into automating your guest list, creating the agreements, finding the right platforms, and those things. So it is iDannyMarie.com for my podcast services. Or if you want to join the group, plantopodcast.com for more information about the group. Like I said, every replay that we do, all of our resources and tools go on plantopodcast.com. And it's all things about the group, Plan to Podcast. So how much engagement we get, all of our replays, community MVPs and shout outs, all of those things. Recent clients that I've worked with, important links that you need, like Taylor Brands. If you're looking to still get a business license, there's a discount with Taylor Brands. Or, like I said, hiring your own virtual assistants. All of it is available, plantopodcast.com. So tomorrow, I believe, I don't know who's going to be in the group. I think Tuesday is the day that I said is still open. So if you're a moderator, if you are a podcaster who's been podcasting for 3 months plus, and you feel like you have a lot to offer, we still have an opening for Tuesday. I think DC's on Wednesday, and I think Jonathan is on Thursday. And then I can't tell you who else is after that. But say hello to the moderators. Moderators say hello to the new members. New members say hello to the vets. Hello, everyone. And if you're not a part of our group, Plan to Podcast, again, I dropped it in the link on Substack, plantopodcast.com. We welcome you to our space. You are welcome here. You all have a lovely week. I will talk with you later. Bye.